Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. How can a disabled person live a happy and fulfilling life? Linda Dezenski, author of Persistence, was born with cerebral palsy. Her story is one of dealing with the inconveniences of a body that doesn't do what she wants it to do. At the same time, attitudes, prejudice, and discrimination are an even greater challenge. In a moment of epiphany, Linda realizes her purpose. She learns to accept her disability as part of who she is and move on to her mission of helping others put their disabilities into the proper place. Linda works for a city agency that provides services to people with intellectual disabilities. She's passionate about civil rights, particularly independent living and civil rights for people with disabilities. She has 2 master's degrees from Bryn Mawr College, Graduate School of Social Work and Social Research, the author of a series of children's books, and Persistence, Living an Authentic Life with a Disability. And Linda Dezenski is our guest on This Week in America. Hi, Linda. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
What an important book this is, explaining what you went through, giving all of us an example of what life is like and what we can do to make life better. And you actually said 38 years you've been actually working on this book, Persistence. Talk about why you decided to write this. Why was this so important to you?
Well, because I have always had a level, I guess, of anger. And also, there were things in my 30s when I started it anyway. I felt a certain level of anger, and I also thought that I could teach people why it was important to treat people with disabilities as normal, regular people. I mean, we may have disabilities, but the focus of our lives is to figure out how we can live happily and contribute something of meaning or purpose to the community. And the people that I have met, whether they're doing volunteer work or they're doing employment or other projects, are very much wanting to be full contributing citizens. And, living a happy life means having a sense of purpose.
I mentioned in the beginning, this book really is for everybody. Let's talk about that, because this really is, if you have a disability, this is encouragement. This is what Linda has gone through and her way of helping you. If you're someone who knows someone with a disability, you see someone with a disability, it explains better what is happening and what your response should be. Who did you design the book for?
Well, really, I did design it for everybody, because the first thing I'd like to say is that everyone has something about themselves that they don't like. And some people take whatever this perceived flaw is and, really magnify it by thinking about it all the time or whatever. It's really a book for everybody that feels at some point that they've been othered, which means, they've been excluded, they are being discriminated against, they feel, some animosity about the way that they present themselves. And my point is, whatever issue you have that is your perceived disability or flaw, you can put that in the background if you choose to focus more on the things that you can do and not focus as much on the things that you can't or you struggle with.
Yes.
And the other point I'd like to make here is that when people have a disability, let's say mine in particular, which is very visible, you have you have choices. You can try to fix it if it's fixable. You can try to hide it if you can, or you can learn to live with it. And my choice was to figure out that, hey, it's not everything about me. I may have a physical disability, and sometimes it's very inconvenient, and it's even more expensive. But I focus on my abilities, what I can do, and what I can contribute. So, very much so, I can live a very happy life. And I wanted this book to be an example because I do talk about my life, but I also put in the back of the book some starting points for people who are new to disability or their family members, supporters. I put in there some tips for medical professionals about dealing with disability, because believe it or not, medical professionals need as much education as all of the rest of the general public.
Interesting.
And I also put in there tips about how to make meetings more accessible for everyone, to be more inclusive. What's important about having a disability is figuring out how you can access the community and being invited to, or you can participate equally in events and, activities like any other person. And unfortunately, I live in Philadelphia, which is still a somewhat old and inaccessible city at times. But on the other hand, we've spent a lot of our work as a disability community trying to make it more accessible. And we've made significant progress.
Linda Dezenski is our guest on the program. That's Dezenski. Her website is lindadezensky.com. That's on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can go get information to go directly to Linda's website. The book is available wherever books are sold. The name of the book is Persistence, and you'll find it again wherever books are sold. Links on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. In writing this book, you have some terms in there that you use, and I was looking through that. Normal is a word that really is interesting. We judge a lot of things based on whether or not they are normal. Talk about why you included the definition and what your definition of normal is and why that's so important to you.
Well, I would say I could use normal if it was normal for me.
Yes.
If that was the phrase. I like to say regular. What's regular for me? What I normally would do is, what's normal for me. But language is very important because language is, could be an instrument of discrimination. It
Yes.
shows attitude. So I put in there a bunch of language-defined terms that would help people understand not just language, but also concepts about independent living that are very important. But they're concepts that I promise you, if you don't label yourself as an individual with a disability, and you were denied informed consent, or you were denied, freedom of choice in areas of your own life, you would not be very happy, So the language was two purposes, again, to educate the community about what's important, and also a way of making your language more friendly to someone. Let's say you have an encounter with a person with a disability and you feel awkward about it. There's kind of like some do's and don'ts in there. Don't use the word handicapped. Handicapped means cap in hand or beggar. And we're not that. We're never that. No person I have ever met has been that.
Yes.
In terms of, how they approach their life. Everybody wants dignity, and language is a very important tool towards dignity.
In the beginning, I mentioned the aha moment that you had, the epiphany, where this all fell into place. And we'll talk about this here in a second. It wasn't like you grew up with this attitude. This is something, baggage that you were carrying around, and you got to this place where you were able to write the book. You were able to help other people. Talk a little bit about your background growing up let's go back. Let's start with the epiphany. Then we'll talk about your background. When did you have this aha moment that this is me, not who people may perceive is me, but it is me, and here's what my mission is.
Yes.
How did you arrive at that?
Well, I had surgeries when I was a teenager, and they corrected a lot of issues with my gait. At that time, I was walking with crutches, and I was recuperating from surgery, and I was about 17, I guess, and I was walking around the neighborhood, and it suddenly occurred to me that no matter how great I thought I was, and this is the teenage me, okay? The teenage me was like, well, no matter how great you think you are, other people are always going to look at you like you're less than.
Yes.
And I had anger. And I still have anger at the moments. As you can see, sometimes it bubbles up. But I started to realize that the only way to move on with my life was, darn it, I was going to prove something, and I was going to prove that I was just like everybody else, and that even though I might look different or walk different, I still wanted the same things as everybody else. And I went to a regular public high school. I was mainstreamed, they called it then, when I was like 14, 15.
Yes.
So I went through public high school, and that was a whole different ballgame, because that really opened up the world. When you're in a segregated school, as I was before the age of 14, it was all about physical therapy, occupational therapy, very little academics. I call it the gift that keeps on giving, because my math skills are not that great, because academics wasn't the priority.
Oh, yes.
When I got into high school, I had science, I had geography, I had top, subject matter topics that I had not had before. And I was thrilled out of my mind. But everyone looked at me like I was a space alien, because I think at that time I was one of the very few people with physical disabilities at the school. And it took them time to get to know me and for me to get to know them. But I would definitely say I didn't immediately fit in socially or otherwise until we got more into a couple of years down the road. But that education prepared me for college and eventually graduate school. If I hadn't gone in 9th grade to regular school, I would not have had algebra, which actually was quite entertaining for me. But it's one of the key elements to passing a lot of those college entrance tests and all that kind of stuff.
So that really was a life-changing time for you. And Linda Dezenski is our guest. Her book is Persistence. You'll find it wherever books are sold. A link on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You said one of the things you had to deal with, and this was growing up as a child and into adulthood as well, you were a people pleaser. You were concerned about what people expected of you, and you wanted to give them what they expected of you rather than living your own life. Talk about that. Sometimes we all get caught up wanting to please other people, and in the meantime, we don't please ourselves.
Well, I think that some of that came from my family. And if people read the book, they're going to see that my mother had some problems with the fact that God would give her a child with a disability. So a lot of my family, especially as a very small child, my family was sad. Not that they didn't love me. They loved me, very much.
Yes.
But they were sad. No one knew what Linda was going to be capable of. And that's true of any parent that has a child, but especially a parent that has a child with a disability. Um, and so the people pleasing was really also the seed of trying to not demand too much attention, to try to be more in the background, because I didn't want it to be all about me, you know?
Yes.
And then when you're in a situation, when you're in new environments, like when I first went to ninth grade, it was not necessarily hidden that some of the teachers came right up to me and said, gee, I don't know what to expect, if you're going to have success here or not. So, of course, I knew that that was the most important opportunity that I had ever had
Yes.
in my life. And I wasn't going to disappoint. I went out of my way to, be as perfect as I could. Now, interestingly enough, down the road, my striving for perfection was really beginning to affect my self-esteem. And I had to learn to be less perfectionistic. Not that it doesn't crop up once in a while.
Yes.
But, I have to be, sometimes I just send an email with a typo in it just to prove to myself that I'm okay not being absolutely perfect. But it's like, be perfect wherever you can be perfect, because otherwise people see that you have a disability, And I really have done a lot of work on myself and my attitude and my anxieties and things of this sort, to try to bring my life back into a better focus, to focus on happiness and not worry so much about things like presentation,
Yes.
appearance, and perfection.
You say you still work on things. Is that true? That you sort of like still a work in progress? You still are out there and making tweaks and realizing something
Oh,
you don't like or
absolutely.
you like? Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I'm 65, and I'm still a work in progress. I learn new things every day. This week, I had a big transition because I had a fall and I decided that it was probably time to use a wheelchair. So I actually got a manual wheelchair delivered. And my first maiden voyage with it was to go downstairs for a meeting on Tuesday night. So I'm going to be using the wheelchair when I go out, especially if I'm going to be walking long distances now. But, if you're not, the thing about the fun thing about having a disability, if I can say that,
Yes.
is that you have to approach it with a spirit of experimentation. You have
Yes.
to approach it with flexibility. Okay, this barrier jumps up in my life. How am I going to get around it? It's kind of like playing a video game. The monsters jump up and you have to clear your path in some way or figure out a way to get around them. And that's pretty much how it is when you live with a disability. It's actually two jobs. One job is to manage your services so that they support you. And the other job is to do whatever else you may be doing, whether it's volunteer work or a paid job, So it is more work. It is sometimes very inconvenient and more expensive, but it is not a tragedy. A disability or any other thing that makes you feel different is not a tragedy. You can turn your difference into something positive.
In this book,
That you use it.
yes. The book Persistence is not just about struggles. It's a story of triumph, what Linda has gone through and where she is today, and her passion for helping people. A few minutes left in the program. You talk about we live in a kind of in-between world. Talk about what you mean by that and where we are as a general population in being accepting and understanding what you're going through. Where are we now? Are we making progress? Are we still attempting to make progress?
We're still making progress. We have, in the work that I do, we're still taking people out of institutions. The disability community likes to try to bring people out of nursing homes and other facilities so that they can live a less restrictive lifestyle, because that's what everyone wants to live. So we're still doing all of that. And honestly, some of the recent developments with funding issues are going to, I think, really impact education for kids with disabilities. And I worry about our immediate future. But I will also say that our community is very resilient because we are very experimental, and we will find a way around any barriers that are presented to us. It's just a shame when you have to fight for things that are so basic that other people take for granted, like accessible transportation, like accessible housing. We don't have enough of it. So we're still fighting those battles.
And then you see progress, and then you see chipping away at that progress. Just because you get there doesn't mean it's a permanent position there, because you have to keep fighting for that. You mentioned, budgets, and budgets turn into discussions of money, but there are people that are impacted because of those budgets.
And I do want to say one thing very clearly, which is anything in the community is cheaper than putting somebody in an institution. Yes. Because when you pay for a bed, you're paying for all of the facilities and all of the other services that are attached to that building, whether that individual needs that stuff or not. So whenever we can get money directed towards community-based services, you're going to be able to serve 2 or 3 people for one nursing home bed or one facility bed.
It just makes a lot of sense from a whole bunch of different angles. It does make sense to continue what we're doing and to expand on what we're doing. Our guest is Linda Dezenski, almost out of time. You're working on a new book, I understand, that deals strictly with what you've gone through. I think the working title is Getting to the Real Me. How is that coming?
Yeah, I'm going to do it's really going to be a sequel to Persistence, which may be named something else, like Still Persisting, or Still a Pain in the Neck, whatever. I haven't decided that yet, but I am making some notes. I'm not, I'm just going through the whole process. It took me 30 some years to get this one published. So,
well, I hope this one is quicker.
The other process would be faster.
Yes, hopefully you've learned some things and the process will be quicker, and we'll have a chance to talk about that as well. Persistence is the name of Linda's book. I love the cover. Talk about that, because you can see so much by the cover book what it's about and whether you want to read it or not, and it grabs your attention. Talk about the cover and how you came up with this.
Well, that's how it feels. You're always moving a barrier. You're always moving a boulder. You're always, you're making progress, but you're pushing it up the hill. And that is a very well-recognized theme in our community.
And you look at it and you think, that's got to be difficult. A wheelchair, the boulder, going uphill. And it's like, well, yeah, that's the point. That's why the book is called Persistence. That's why this book is a must-read. It's available wherever books are sold, and a link for Linda's website on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Just briefly, the kids' books as well. Talk about the series of books, because you're reaching out to young people with messages.
Yeah, early readers. They're cartoony. And it's about a nose, and your nose goes with you wherever you go. And your nose encourages you to have adventures and meet new people, even people who are different than you. So it's got themes of diversity and inclusion, tolerance for small children.
Is it better when you deal with the young children, their minds are so open, they will take what you say and process it. When you're talking to somebody in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, minds are pretty well made up. Is it easier when you're dealing with children and explaining what
Yes.
you're going through, the differences?
Yes, and I always answer their questions, even if they would be obnoxious coming from an adult. I always look at children as just very curious. They always want to know why.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to tell them what happened and why, and tell them what's important, because they really just want the information. A friend of mine was giving a presentation once, and a third grader was mostly concerned that the individual, did he sleep in a bed at night because he was in his wheelchair? The child just wanted to understand that an adult with a disability, even though they use a wheelchair, does sleep in a bed at night. So questions are they're so open.
Yes.
That working with children is always fun. It makes me laugh.
Well, and the books are designed for children in the Nosy series, and you'll find all of this on Linda's website as well. But the time is going by so quickly. Hopefully we'll have a chance to do this again. The name of the book that we're talking about is Persistence. It's that simple. Or Linda's website is lindadezenski.com, DEZENSKI. Book available wherever books are sold. I'd like to thank EC Publishing for arranging our conversation today. EC Publishing, bringing your vision to life with expert editing, design, and marketing tools tailored to your publishing needs. EC Publishing, LLC. And Linda, it's been a pleasure having you on the program. The book is Persistence. It's available wherever books are sold. Thank you for being with us on the program today.
Thank you. Never give up.
That's good for all of us. And excellent job today. And hopefully we're going to have part 2 of this conversation. You're listening to This Week in America. And we're back on today's program right after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.